Hi, welcome to this week's Authors Love Readers podcast, where we delve into the stories behind the stories. We're asking authors questions, some of them fun, some of them serious, and from their answers, you're going to learn things you never knew about the people who write the stories you love. My name is Patricia McLinn. I'm your host and designated question asker.
I'm Jami Albright, and I'm an author who loves readers.
Now, let's start the show. Hi, and welcome to this edition of Authors Love Readers podcast. I have to apologize to folks if I'm a little froggy. I think this is allergies. That's what I intend them to be. It's allergies. It must be allergies, right?
Yes,
because I'm
absolutely.
not about to have a cold. And this episode, we are welcoming Jami Albright. I'm really excited to have you here today, Jami. And
Thank you.
it was so much fun to be on your podcast with Sarah Rosette the other day.
Yes.
We decided to swap roles this time. So
Exactly.
we're
Yeah,
going to even it out. So
it was
I will
a really
start.
fun podcast interview with you. Yeah, I looked at the time and went, "Oh my gosh, where'd the time go?" I mean, it was great. Yeah.
That's one of the things that this podcast is for the readers and sort of a view into what happens between writers when they get together and start talking. And that's one of the things, the time flies. So let's start. Tell the readers a little bit about what kind of books you write.
I write romantic comedy, contemporary romance, romantic comedy. My books are funny, but they're also emotional. I get that a lot in the reviews. And, but yeah, they're small town Texas romantic comedies.
I was just going to ask you if you've lived all your life in Texas.
I have, born and raised, and right at the beginning of East Texas, where East Texas starts. So yeah, my accent is pretty bad comparatively to the rest of the state. I think East Texas accents are pretty thick, but it got better for a while, and then I sort of just went, oh, I don't even care anymore. And so now it's kind of back to where it was.
That's funny. So
Yeah.
can you hear it, or to you it just sounds like normal?
Sometimes I can hear it. There's certain words I say, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound so country. But and then there's sometimes I think, well, it's not that bad. And then I hear recording of myself and go, oh my gosh, when did Loretta Lynn start podcasting? And then I know it's pretty bad.
Hey, she'd be a huge success at it, as you guys are. So.
She would.
So we're going to ask you a few questions, kind of off-the-wall questions to let readers get to know you.
Okay, great.
What's a surprising job you've held?
I was an extra in movies for a while. I was in The Rookie and in Miss Congeniality, and then a couple of TV things that probably nobody's heard of. But yeah.
So what from that experience, what would be something that happened that people wouldn't expect?
Well, in The Rookie, I had gone to the set because they had called my son to be like the bat boy at at the first. If you've seen the movie, it's the first kind of semi-pro game he plays, and so they just kind of put a bunch of people in the stands. And I thought, well, I'm here, I may as well get paid, for. And in a crowd scene, you're never seen at all. And so I just sat there I had a friend, and we were just sitting there, and they walked through the crowd and they said, you need a balloon hat. You need a balloon hat. You need a balloon hat. And they picked me, and I'm like, what about me says I need a balloon hat? So they put it on, and then they said, when the music plays, everybody stand up and dance. So of course we did. And again, because it's a crowd scene, you just think they're not, nobody, they just pan across the crowd scene. You never see the crowd. Well, when we went to see the movie, my son's part got cut, but it wasn't a big part, but it got cut. And then, but then when they pan the crowd, you can clearly see me dancing in this balloon hat. So that was kind of unexpected because I really did not think I'd be on camera. So yeah, it's a real proud moment for my family. So.
Now, do you still try to do that, or
uh,
is this in your past now?
it's pretty much my past. When I was in my 30s, uh, kind of early 40s, I did that, and then I did stand up, and so that's kind of something I did then. But I have recently, until COVID, been taking acting classes with at a place here in Houston, where I'm from. Just really, mostly, it was for fun and to have something different but creative to do other than
Oh,
writing,
that's cool.
and then to meet people, and be around other kind of creatives. And it was really fun, and I really loved it. And had we gone on, I would have probably pursued that a little bit just to have another outlet. But then with COVID hit, nobody's doing anything, and
No,
there's a lot of
no.
like right now, what that class is doing is a lot of homework stuff, like filming in your house and all of that, which is important, but that's not really why I signed up. And I do have a job. So it's like,
And
I don't really have time for all that. So yeah.
but I think it's really it can really help writing
Hmm.
because you have to learn how to express emotion with physical action.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as a writer, I'm always looking for ways to convey
Me
emotion
too. Yeah.
without yet another rolling their
Hmm.
eyes or
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
where
There are a
people sigh
lot
a
of
lot.
there are a lot of eyebrows sliding up the forehead in
Yeah,
my books. Yeah.
yes.
Um,
And
yeah. So
I
that helps. It does help. I tell you what it really helps me with though is dialogue.
oh, interesting.
When I first started writing, that was, I mean, my books, in fact, first drafts look a lot like a script just because it's a lot of dialogue. It's not a lot
Yeah.
on the walls, no smells, no colors, but it does help me with dialogue, and it also helps me with pacing. I think it helps me with
Mm.
pacing because when you're in a scene or watching a scene or you're cognizant of scenes on in movies and stuff, you'll notice the flow of a scene, and so I think that helps. It helps with that.
Yeah, that's it. Dialogue drives my first drafts too, and I
Mhm,
think it
mhm.
comes from the journalism background
Yeah,
and
yeah.
getting quotes and hearing people's voices and how they use words
Right,
differently
right.
and distinctly. Yeah, that's fascinating. That what a
Mhm.
great answer from one little question.
Yay! I tend to have I have really great high concept ideas. Like, I'm a high concept person. And so I start writing because I've got this great idea and I get about 20,000 words into a book and go, "Oh crap, I had a good idea, but I don't have a story." And so then I have to just sit down and try to plot the book from there.
Okay, do the best you can to explain to the listeners, especially those who are coming to it as readers,
Mhm.
the difference between an idea and a story.
So an idea is like I can see this couple or this scenario being a great story. Like I can see this whole high concept thing of runaway brides and a runaway bride who's a good girl and she thought, she accidentally marries a rock star in Vegas. That was my first book and, totally original. But I mean, the idea is not original, but the story itself is original. And so, but the story is how those two people, the rock star and the good girl, move through the book and the story and come out on the other end changed. How love in a romance, how their relationship in love changes them on the other side. So story for me is what happens next. What happens next? And a lot of times I'll get to that 20,000 word point and go, I don't know what happens next. So for me that's what story is.
So, are those 20,000 words when we talked on your podcast,
Mhm.
said that I don't write in sequence. I don't write
Mhm.
chronologically. So my 20,000 words I had among my many editors I had in traditional, there was one with a good sense of humor who would say, "Well, how far along are you?" And I would say, 20,000 words. And then together we would say, but not necessarily the first 20,000 words.
Yeah,
Um,
usually they
but
are.
for you, it is?
Mhm.
Okay. So you
Usually,
started
yeah,
from
because it's the idea,
the setup.
it's the setup. I'm great with a setup. Like, I am good with a hook, and I'm good with endings. It's the stuff that happens between 20,000 words and 70,000 words that really kinda gets me. And so, like, for instance, this Homecoming King, it is a standalone right now, but it is gonna be part of a series, and the concept is huge. It's so good. I mean, really and truly, it is so good, but I don't really have stories for the other books. I just have ideas.
Oh, well,
So
I wouldn't worry about that yet.
yeah, I know, but it does worry me a little bit.
I will often start books because I hear snatches of dialogue,
Mhm,
and I will just start with that, and then you have to sort of sit back and say, "Okay,
mhm,
who are
mhm.
you people and what are you
Yeah,
talking
what do
about?"
you want? Yeah, what do you want? There's a
Yeah.
lot of times
Oh,
that's hard for me.
even
Mhm.
better, what do you need?
Yeah, what do
Because
you
you
need?
may want something and
Yeah.
it's not the right thing for
Yeah.
them,
What
and
do
you
you
gotta
need and how
dig
can I
down to the
keep you from
need,
getting that for, 50,000 words?
or keep you
Because
from getting what you want and force you to have what you need.
well, yeah, by the end, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so for me, but that is kind of part of my process. It's one of my strengths is activator. Like I want to like I get an idea and I got to start it. Like let's not wait around. Let's start this idea. The problem is, I get to the point where I don't know what happens next. And well, that's not even a problem. The biggest problem is then I freeze up. I panic
S So
and
then what do you do? How do you deal with that?
not
So
very
what
well sometimes. Sometimes I do okay if I can just like I am an auditory. One of my other strengths is communicator, so I um I have to say it for it to be real, basically. And
Mm,
so if I can find someone to talk the story out with that is on the same wavelength as me. The problem is a lot of times people hear my idea and then they have a different story than I think goes with that idea. And so that's
yeah.
always kind of difficult. It has to be the story, even though I don't know it, it has to be the one that resonates with that idea.
Yes. You feel
And
things about it,
right. And I
and some
have
things feel right and some don't. Yeah.
right. Exactly. And I have found Claire Taylor, she has a program called Story Alignment, and she's a very good friend of mine. And so she's walked me through the last two books, really and truly. She's kind of sat down, and we at our 20,000 words, or sometimes it's even more. I will go, not sure what happens now, and she will help me kind of walk through the next part. And then I can make notes, beats, and I know where I'm going. As long as I have something to write to, I'm fine. It's when I don't
Mm,
have anything to write to.
mm.
Yeah. That is how I've handled it this past year. My last release was last July 2019. So this release is July 2020. But this last year has been really difficult, just emotionally. We lost my nephew um, in May
Oh,
of last year, and
oh,
yeah, and then my daughter and son-in-law are foster parents, and
yeah.
they got their first placement like in November, and the kids went home in January, which we wanted them to go home. I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. Foster care is always, reunification. But it, it was it was a little sooner than we all kind of thought it should be. And
Oh,
when they went home, it was like a death. I mean, it really was that grieving all over again. And even though we know they're fine, they're back where they're supposed to be. It's just so emotionally this year, and then of course COVID has just been a bitch. No, I mean there's just no
yeah.
other way to say it. And so I it's taken me a year to write this book. Like I've had this concept for more than probably a year and a half, but I didn't start writing until last August. And it's just been very difficult to write. very, very difficult to write. I've had to stop, like between middle of November and into December. I didn't write at all, and it was because I was, off for the holidays. I had to just stop, and then I came back in January, and then the girls went home,
Mm,
and I had to take another few weeks, just do nothing, just stare out the window and process through it, and then get back on. And I was able to finish it. In this business, the only way you fail is if you quit. I mean, that is
true.
just the bottom line.
Yep.
But yeah, I
How are you approaching the next book?
well, interestingly enough, I kind of know what I'm going to do with this next book. I actually have part of a story, and that just came to me very fast. I wrote the first part of the next book that's going to be my second epilogue in the back of my book,
Uh-huh.
because I'm putting that book up for pre-order, and I wrote that really fast and sent it to my editor. She loved it. We made some tweaks, and yeah, it's done, and it's a great. It ends on a great hook, and I can see the story. I have certain scenes that I can see with the story, and so as soon as this book comes out next week, I'm going to sit down with Claire and see if we can, you know, get me some key scenes that I can write to, so that I can maybe not
That's
have as
great.
much trouble.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
I'm also sitting here, well, partially envying you the idea of putting out one book before you start on the next.
Mm,
I'm always the 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 one that I'm not writing now but should be writing next is
yeah.
always the one that's the most intriguing.
Oh yeah, the favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. It's the one
Mhm.
that's gonna be easy, it's gonna be
Mhm.
so much fun, it's
Mhm.
gonna go fast,
Mhm.
and it's the one that I think it's like the carrot in front of the
Oh
donkey
yeah,
going around the circle. I
definitely.
think I think our muses have set it up that way to keep us going. Um,
Absolutely.
but by the
Absolutely.
time I put a book out, I'm already on to the next one
Mhm.
usually.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting to me that you sort of
Mhm.
complete one,
Mhm.
although you did start this next one
I
before.
did, but I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's what is it? 25,000 words. I mean, 2,500 words. I mean, it's not much, but I don't want to say I can't do that, because I feel like that's pretty limiting. I guess I could. I don't.
It does.
I don't know that I want to, and
Yeah.
I've just sort of had to trust that if it takes me a long time to tell a story, then it takes me a long time to tell a story. But it's usually a really good story. Like I usually can hit the mark by taking my time. And so for me, that's important. And I'm not saying other people can hit the mark by writing multiple stories and writing them fast. I've not been able to do that. So, I'd love to, because, putting books out faster for my readers would love that. I would love it. My bank account would love it. But right now,
Yeah,
that's not what happens.
I don't wanna mislead people. I wouldn't say I'm a fast writer. I'm more in the middle, and I
Hmm.
feel like I've gotten slower as time
Yeah.
has gone on.
Yeah.
Um, but this also triggers a question that came from a reader,
Hmm.
who said, "Where do your stories come from?" And this reader also said, "I know one author who dreams her stories. Another has a character suddenly taking up residence in her head.
Hmm.
So how are your beautiful stories born?"
I don't dream them. I wish I did, a la Stephanie Myers. But I do kind of have, I think that taking up residence in your head, a character taking up residence in your head, is really pretty accurate for me. Homecoming King was conceived in the Bahamas with four of my writing. Well, it was actually my friend Maria Lewis and I. We were standing in the water. We had gone there for a writing retreat, and we were standing in the water, and I was like, I just have this picture of this woman who is not, she's 30 years old and hasn't really, she's been living for somebody else, and now she's living for herself. But I think there's this football player that comes home, and we pretty much came up with the idea for Homecoming King right there. And but it
Mm.
was that concept, I just kept seeing, and I don't even have a scene in the book, but this concept of this woman laying a towel over a lawn chair at the pool in a
Yeah.
bikini, and she's not skinny skinny, she's just a normal person, and laying the towel down, and a man, the owner of the house, because she's at a house she doesn't own, and coming in and saying something, and then her turning around, and then them being appalled that it's each other. That is the scene that stayed in my head. I didn't write it. It didn't fit in the book, but that was the
Interesting.
yeah, that was the concept for.
Do you think it will pop up in one of the other books in the series?
I don't know. I don't
Or
know.
was that them and
That
it
was just
couldn't.
them. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
just them,
okay.
and yeah, and that's it was really kind of that way with Rockstar too. I just like with Rockstar, I kept seeing this fish out of water. He wasn't. It was like a businessman from LA coming to a small town and having to live there. That was sort of how the first concept of that was. I just saw this man walking up to this farmhouse, knocking on the door, and basically saying, "Honey, I'm home," and having to live in this small town. And then those books just sort of wrote them. I mean, they didn't write themselves, but the stories kind of the ideas for the stories came with those, because it's all, they're standalones in a series, so they're all interconnected, but you can read them alone, standalone.
So, another reader wants to know about what your favorite place to write is
Mm,
and why. And very kindly says, does it have an inspirational view? And I think that this reader is hoping we have inspirational
I
views.
wish.
And
Yeah.
then I want to twin that, Jamie, too, with whether you have a writing routine.
Hmm. When I'm writing, I try to write in the mornings. But I don't right now, things, my husband's working at home. My youngest daughter, had a baby 3 months ago, and so they're living with us,
Ah,
and so yeah, so that's honestly, he's gotten us through COVID. But so it's a little weird right now, but I'm not actually creating
I think
new
everybody
words.
can empathize with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I'm not actually creating new words. So I will say normally I do write in the mornings. I write in my office. Usually, I like writing at a coffee shop. Unfortunately, there is no view. The bald guy sitting across from me, but
Yeah,
that's
but does
about
he
it.
ever show up in the book?
No, but oh, I can't go to Starbucks on Sunday afternoons, because that's when all the first dates from Match.com or something like that meet up, and I can't look away, and I can't
Yeah,
concentrate on my story because I'm listening, because it's like
yeah,
a
yeah.
train wreck, and so I can't go then. But I,
But
I
it's
do.
research, Jamie.
Yeah, it is good research. I just redid my office, and it's really
Oh.
lovely, and I'm looking forward to really being in there a
What's
lot
your
to write.
favorite thing that you changed, that you did? What's your favorite thing about your office?
Mm, really, it's the walls. I painted them this really light purple it's really lavender, just really soft, light lavender, and it's just so soothing. But that's my first, and I'll do my second one because I really do love this too. I ordered a cutout, like a wooden cutout of my name, that's on the
Oh,
that yeah, that's on the wall, and I love that. It just looks so nice, and so yeah, it's my space. Unfortunately,
that's
right now my
cool.
husband's having to use it because that's where the best
Oh,
internet is, and
oh.
his computer won't really work anywhere else. I mean, we switch off. If I really have to sit and concentrate on something, that's where I go. But if he has a bunch of calls or whatever, his computer works better in there. So we're working on that. But because I think he's going to be home probably till the end of the year, working.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I work. That's where I write. I would love it if I could write on the sofa, but I can't. I get too distracted and my back hurts because I don't have proper posture. So that's where.
You've talked about this a little bit, but I want to get to it very clearly. Do your books change from from the time you have that idea,
Mhm.
from the concept, from
Mhm.
conception to
Mhm.
when it's published, how much do your stories change? How much does the story change from the idea to the completion of a book?
I would say the first one changed a lot in that he wasn't a rock star, then he was a rock star. So that one sort of changed a lot. This book, Homecoming King, actually changed quite a bit as far as that scene I saw in my head. It did set things up, but it was not really even the tone of the book. But the rest of them, once I have the idea, that's the story, you know, once I get it nailed
Hmm.
down. Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think from writing that first book, how did that change how you approached book, or how did it change you as a writer?
It's hard to say because I really wasn't a writer until that first book.
Mm,
It's just like learning from my critique partners, which I'm so grateful for. And I know people have differing opinions about critique partners, whether it's good or bad. But for me, it was life changing because I learned the correct way to write. I learned about showing, not telling. I learned, and they didn't
mhm,
like. I I know now. I didn't know then that they saw something and they felt like I could do more than just, correct some grammar here and there. Um, Even though they did slam me on grammar a lot. Um, but I think that's what changed me. It made me,
is the grammar coming more naturally now?
oh no, mm-mm. Every once,
No? Oh.
some, but not really. No, I mean, my poor, my poor editor. She just knows. I mean, I do try to clean it up as much as I can. I run it through Grammarly, which only does minimal amount. It's sometimes wrong, but yeah, I mean, some of it is okay. If I take my time, I can do better. But the problem is I don't take my time. I don't
Mhm.
really concentrate on that because I know I'm bad at it and I know there are other things I'm good at. So that's what I do. But like when I went to my critique group, you know, it was not only story stuff, but it was grammar stuff. Like at one point, one of my critique partners said, a sentence has a subject and a verb.
Unless it's a fragment. I
Yeah,
love
unless it's a
sentence
fragment.
fragments.
And I do use fragments because of comedy
Yeah.
and,
Timing.
yeah, and
Yep.
timing and stuff. But then but I handled it like, I mean, I'm telling you, they ripped me apart. I mean, they just ripped it apart. But they were always kind and they were always encouraging when I would come back and have something, you know, I would do the next part and they would say, "Oh, you did this great. Look, you showed all through this paragraph, or whatever." And so they were encouraging, but and I took it. Like I just took it because I knew I didn't know anything. But about July, they got me on run-on sentences. So the next week I came back and then they got me on sentence fragments. And I was like, I'm never learning this. So I did cry that week, but I waited till I got in the car. And but yeah, I mean, you just again, you only fail if you give up. And so
Yeah.
I'm just not going to give up.
And it's like the 3 bears. This bed's too
Exactly.
big. This
Yep.
bed's too small. This bed's just right.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Do you have, interactions with readers? How do you interact with readers? What sort of things did they tell you?
I mostly interact online, on Facebook, with my readers. I have a reader group, and it's funny because I don't put out a book very often, obviously, and so we talk about a lot of stuff because we're not going to always talk about books because I don't have that. I don't have that many books, and I don't that's really not what my group is for. They've already bought my books. So I just really
Mm.
wanna kinda cultivate that I mean, I know there are people in my group that haven't bought my books because I'll say, "Who's your favorite character?" or whatever, or I'll do a giveaway and someone says, "Well, I've never read your books." I'm like, "Why are you in
Yeah.
here?" But it's fine. I'm glad they're there. but we talk about a lot of different things. I'm pretty real with my readers, and if things aren't going well, they know they know it, and but they're just they're just great, like, really great. They're very patient, and the good news is there's tons of books for them to read. Tons and
Yes.
tons of books for them.
Yes.
It's not like I'm leaving
Yeah.
them hanging. And, but then when I do have a book, like, I just the response to my cover reveal and my blurb from my readers has been just phenomenal. It's just so amazing, and they're just so kind and gracious, and I'm eternally grateful because it just always blows me away when somebody says they've read my book, and
Um,
because you just never think. I mean, when you start, you just or I started, I never thought anybody would read my books. I mean, I just never thought about that.
how do you approach creating a cover?
Mm. I'm going to go back to the first book because all four books in the Bride series, the covers are very similar. There's a definite branding, but so that first book, I thought I had an idea of what I wanted. She's redheaded, so I wanted a redheaded girl, but I knew so little about cover design and graphic art that I didn't know what cover designers could do. So I was looking for a red-headed girl and a dark-headed, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, and I didn't know they could change those things. And I was looking for somebody in a wedding dress. Well, they could put a wedding dress on her. I mean, I didn't know that. So when I started my cover design, I used not Nejla Quamber with Nejla Quamber Designs,
Mm.
and she is phenomenal. So she's very patient, and I was telling her what I wanted, and we went through maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 iterations. I mean, this $130 cover ended up costing me a lot more because of the iterations. It just wasn't right. It looked young adult. It didn't look, you know, I don't know. It didn't look what it was supposed to. And then I found this couple hugging, but the girl looked like Deborah Messing, and that didn't work. And so she's Nejla said, "Why don't we take a break?" Because it was the holidays, and she said, "We'll come back after Christmas, and we'll see." Because I had plenty of time, and I said, "Okay." So during that time, I just realized that I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and so when we got back together, I said, "Nejla, I've been thinking that I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna leave it to you, the professional, to give me some
Uh,
ideas of what." And she was like, "Oh, thank God." And she really did. And so she came up with a couple of concepts, and they were amazing. It was just the one we went with was great. I was able to find a photo. The guy was important to me. The girl is important, but it was the guy that I really wanted to
mm, mm,
kind of hit. And my books are, I mean, they have sex on the page, but they're not super sexy. I mean, the door is wide open, but it's still, on the chili pepper scale, it's probably, 2.5 or three, maybe 3.5 on the later books. And so I wanted a shirtless guy, but I did not want his chest showing. And so I found a guy that was shirtless but laying down, and so you just see his shoulder, and he's got this great
mhm,
tattoo.
mhm.
And um, she put something together, and it was amazing. So that's how those books were done. And so then after that, each book has the bride and then the hero. So each one has them on there. The brides are on top, except for the second one. Brides are on top, the guys are on bottom, and then the title is in between the two. And but for this book, the Homecoming King, I actually did custom photos with Wander
Oh,
Photography. I'd never done that before, and I really felt like it was too expensive, and or not too expensive, but out of reach for me, maybe.
mm,
And
mm,
then I realized I was with a group of friends, and we were at the beach here in Texas and Riders, and they're all really successful. And, my goal has been to play with the big girls, and I've done things and set myself up so that I can. And when they were talking about it, I was like, "Oh, it's just too expensive." And they're like, "Jamie, you can afford, you know, custom photos." And
An
I was like,
investment too. Yeah.
"Yeah." And I was like, "Really?" And they were like, "Yeah." And so I but the problem is I write romantic comedy, and all the custom photos, they're smoldering. I mean, for the love, can we
Ah,
buy a smirk? I mean, come on. So it just so happened I met Wander at a book signing. I didn't do. I was helping Ilsa Madden Mills with a book signing, and I was just like, "I love your photos, but you can't use them because I need a smile or a smirk, and your guys are smoldering." And he said we were laughing about it, and then I don't know, it was like the next week I saw he posted a picture of a guy with a girl on his back, but they're smoldering. And I just mentioned, "Hey, this would be perfect if they were smiling. Like this, something like this is what I need if they're smiling." And he said, "Well,
uh-huh.
I've got Andrew coming in this weekend with Jolie, and you tell me what you're wanting and we'll see if we can get it put together." And they knocked it out of the park. I
Oh,
mean,
that's
the
great.
cover for this book is, I mean, the photo is outstanding and it's perfect. And then not Nejla took the photo and just created this beautiful, beautiful cover. So I have ideas, but I really do defer to the experts when it comes to covers. That's a
Mm.
long answer for I defer to the experts.
There was a lot of interesting things in there,
Yeah,
so
well, it's just I just feel like covers are so, so important. They are the first thing anyone sees. And I do believe with a good cover, a good blurb, and a good look inside, you can sell books. Like, and I feel like too, I kind of owe it to my readers to give them the best I can give them. Because if a cover emotionally connects with a reader, that's part of the experience of that whole book. And
mm.
so I feel really strongly about covers. I I would not put up a cover that I wasn't 100% in love with, because I feel like I feel like my readers deserve more, because they're paying for that book. Even if they're
Y
in KU, they're still paying for the book.
you need to thank your lucky stars you were never in traditional
Correct.
because
Oh,
I've
yeah.
I've got some covers where I
Mhm,
go, "Who are these geeky people, and what do
mhm.
they have to do with
Yeah.
my
What do
book?"
they
And,
have to do?
you know
Yeah,
yeah.
so, that would be really hard for me, so
I think that experience, the years and years of that experience, is one of the reasons I tend to do covers without people on them.
mm, mhm,
Um, for to not have a person who doesn't match my
mhm.
vision, but also in a way to let the reader have their vision of.
Right,
But it's different approaches, and I think the covers with people attract readers more strongly.
right. I think they
So
do too.
I know I'm setting myself up with an obstacle that I have to
Mhm, mhm.
overcome, but
Yeah,
you know, it's all kind of just testing and trying things
right,
and doing what feels right in this area and what
right.
avoiding something else, and so
Exactly,
it all works out.
exactly.
Now, with starting your writing career,
Mhm.
so a lot of times I'd like to ask if an author has a book that they considered an overlooked gem, that even their loyal readers haven't really gotten to yet. But it sounds like because you have fewer books so far, you're
Yeah, that's
you
true.
you're not having anything
Yeah,
overlooked yet. But I want
yeah.
to give you the chance, if you had one, um, to mention it.
I have a book that in the Bride series that it's the only one that gets kind of mixed reviews. And I really love this book. It's Running from the Law. And I really love this book, but it is a bit of a hard sell in that the hero is trying to do the right thing, and in doing so is doing the wrong thing, and
Mm.
but it is a hard sell. But I love the book. I love the relationship. It's also a second chance romance. And second chance romance are hard. I think second chance romance are hard in rom-com because there's always usually a sad thing that broke them up or a bad thing that has some sad connotations. So sometimes that's hard to get
Yeah.
over in a rom-com. But
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I could see that.
but anyway, Running from the Law, I do love that book, but it is the only one of mine that really gets just mixed reviews. If you look at the reviews, you're going to see probably more 3-star, 2-star even on that book than you do 4 or 5 stars. So yeah,
Sometimes, and 3 stars isn't really a
no, not at
bad
all,
review,
not at all.
but I find some of my books are more divided. That there are people who love them. One particular book somebody will love and somebody else will hate, and in some ways, those to me are very successful books because they have aroused emotions strongly.
Right.
Um, would you like to have everybody love everything you
Mhm.
did? Well, I guess yes, if you could write whatever you wanted and still have everybody love everything you did. But I
Right.
think I think a lot of times if you try to get everybody to love everything you do porridge.
Mhm.
It's just sort of mush.
Right.
Um,
I would rather the reviews on my books be love it or hate it kind of thing. I
mm,
don't, you know, because and really with that book, it is a love it or hate it kind of book because they either love him or hate him, and they
hmm.
love her or they hate her. And the rest of them, they just kind of love them because the stories lend themselves that way. I mean, there's of course I have bad reviews on all my books, but it's not like that book. That book just seems to be a little polarizing sometimes.
Interesting.
Hmm.
So, which of your books would you recommend that somebody new to you start with?
Running from a Rock Star, the first Bride book,
Okay, start at
definitely.
the beginning.
Hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
And then this is a question from a reader
Hmm.
that I just love. And well, in some way you've already done some of this, but if you could write a book with
Hmm.
any author, alive or dead, who would you want to work with and why?
That's a really good question. Um, Probably Susan Elizabeth Phillips because she is my heroine hero. I just love the way she writes, and I think I could learn so much from her. So that's my answer. Yeah, yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Okay. And I was thinking because you've already written with other people. I
Mhm,
never have.
mhm. I have.
Possibly too megalomaniac.
Yeah.
It's my world. Leave me alone.
Well, it's there were parts of it. There are parts of it I really like because you have that collaboration. You have people to bounce ideas off of, and for
Mm,
me, I need that. I need that vocalization. But then there's also the pressure because somebody else's name's attached to it. For me to to give my best because someone else's name is attached to it. That for me, that's pressure that I don't love. That kind of pressure. With
mm,
my books, if they succeed or fail, that's all on me, and
mhm, mhm.
and nobody gets hurt but me. I don't want to hurt someone else's career because I didn't do my
Oh,
part. I mean, that's just yeah, I still struggle. I still struggle with a lot of confidence in what I write because I think I started so late that I don't have years and years of you know honing this craft. It was sort of a crash course. So.
I keep coming back to if what you're writing pleases you,
Hmm.
if the story that you're telling entertains you,
Hmm.
that's the most important thing because you spend the most time with it.
Yes.
you know,
exactly,
we spend
exactly.
months and months and months with these stories, sometimes
Mhm,
years if it's
mhm.
been gestating for a long time.
Yes.
And you gotta love it. And, then you hope you find the readers who will
Yeah,
also love it.
exactly,
So,
and I do think that any success I've had has one of the reasons has been because I've written the books that I wanted to read. And I think that's important because I do enjoy them because they're authentic because of a love for that genre. And it always makes me crazy when people jump into genres where they don't read and I'm like, "How I don't know how you do that because
I don't understand that either. Yeah.
I love this genre so much that I want to give it my best. I want to be a good representation of this genre.
Now you started reading in thrillers. Do you think you'll ever write in that genre or
No,
other
I'm
genres?
not I'm not I'm not a real plot heavy writer. Mine are real character driven books,
Mhm.
and so I just don't even my well Sarah, she writes, mysteries, and it just always amazes me how someone can set that up. And honestly, I don't read a lot of thrillers anymore. Not because I don't like them. I just don't. I started reading romance, and that just sort of became the genre I love. And the only thing I've thought, like, I have a urban fantasy idea that I've thought about for a long time, but I won't write that until I'm more established doing this. So it may never get written, but um, it's just an idea that's there. So one of
Yeah,
those,
I have all these ideas that are
yeah,
in different genres. I
yeah.
have a time travel and
Hmm.
um, a, a 7-book historical
Wow.
fiction
Yeah.
series
Yeah.
in
Well,
Wyoming.
I'm a
Mm.
big proponent of staying in your lane.
Oh,
Picking a genre, writing in that genre. I am huge like that. I will sing that from the mountains. If you want to make a career of this because or make a living, let's put it that way. Make a living at this because it's just hard. It's hard to
it is.
jump around. Now, if you write really fast, that's a different story, but for me, I write I write so slowly that it would be almost impossible to do that.
That makes a lot of sense,
Mhm.
Jamie. And I tend not to be in my lane,
Mm.
or my lane is very wide,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I sort of swoop around. But I also have the backlist from
Absolutely.
having
Yeah.
written for a long time. So I
Mhm.
have I have those other books.
Yep.
I think you're absolutely right. It is easier to establish yourself
Mhm.
and get to the point where you're making a living if
Right.
you're writing in the same genre.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Um, the caveat then to that is if you're somebody like me, and
Mhm.
some people are even more so, where you can't keep writing in the same genre all the time because you have a little magpie brain that,
Or
that is
yeah,
picking
you
up
get
all these
bored.
things.
Yeah.
Well, or you just not as fresh. I wouldn't even say bored. It's just you're not as fresh, and you have to go and
Right.
step into a different room and get a
Mhm.
different perspective, and
Sure.
then you can go
Sure.
back.
Yeah.
And so um, I don't want people to think that it's an absolute
No, it's not.
that you
That
have to
I
write
just
the
say
same.
for me, I think it's easier. I think it's easier. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready? This is my favorite part.
Yes.
We're going to do rapid fire either ors.
Okay.
So you can't you just have to pick one,
Okay.
okay?
Mhm.
And you've had no warning. You knew
No.
about what these are. So let's start with binge watch or make the watching last as long as possible.
Binge watch.
Jigsaw puzzle or crossword puzzle?
Ooh. Crossword puzzle.
Now, is that hard because you don't like either
I
one?
don't
Or
like
you
either
like both?
one. Yeah. No.
Appetizer or dessert?
Appetizer.
Daisies or roses?
Daisies.
Hot air balloon or train trip?
Train.
All in our heads during this COVID period, but leggings or sweats?
Leggings.
Sailboat or motorboat?
Oh, sailboat,
Pickup or sports car?
sports car,
Opera or show tunes?
show tunes,
Day or night?
day,
Paper plates or best china?
paper plates,
House decorating or gardening?
house decorating,
Ice cream or cake?
cake,
Cat or dog?
dog,
Coffee or tea?
coffee,
Heels or slippers?
heels,
Ooh, Winter Olympics or Summer Olympics?
summer,
Mustard or ketchup?
ketchup,
Grab the best first or save the best for last?
grab the best first.
Okay. Well, that's terrific, Jamie. And I think those give the readers insight to us that would probably more insight than we totally recognize.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a lot of fun. And this whole conversation's been a lot of fun.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you
been
so
great.
much
Thank you.
for joining us and for letting the readers get to know you a little better here on Authors Love Readers.
Thank you.
And I hope all the listeners will check out the Patreon page and check our back episodes of Authors Love Readers, and hope you come back for the next episode. And in the meantime, I wish you all lots and lots of happy reading. That's the show for this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for joining Authors Love Readers podcast. Remember, you can always find out more about our guest authors in the show notes, and you can find out more about me at www.patriciamclinn.com. You can also send in questions to be asked of future authors at podcast@authorslovereaders.com. Until next week, wishing you lots of happy reading. Bye.